Big build up, big build up. Drum roll.
Drum roll, please. Thank you very much. Oh my goodness, I am just so happy to see you. So happy to be here. I'm jazzed.
This is a date with the Beatle, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's how I say it.
This I have probably had as many times as I've read the book myself, wrote the book, and just read it for fun. It's cheaper than therapy for me. You know what and it costs much less than therapy. How would I have that? But anyway.
I was only thinking about when we first met all those years ago.
About all those years ago.
Yeah, and I'm trying to recount as well. Is that 2009 or 10?
No, it was more than that. It was up in Connecticut.
Yes, Connecticut, wasn't it? Yeah, with Charles Rosenay, the Beat Expo.
I think so.
It was. My goodness.
Yes, so that was 14 years ago.
Yeah, that's a bit scary.
I was hardly born then.
We were but children.
We were just kids. Well, I'm still 23 Celsius. I mean, I know I hit the 75 number. I prefer to refer to it as 23 Celsius.
Very wise.
It's so British.
Well, because our body renews itself. You're never older than 15 and a half years old.
I'm loving this. That was the perfect year for me. I was 15 when they landed. And then I turned 16. Oh, it was like the best birthday ever. The week I turned 16, because I was born April 3rd, on the 4th of April, they had all 5 top records in the United States. What a birthday present.
What a birthday present.
What a birthday present. I loved it. I was just
Well, that's why I want to talk to you again about this. Obviously, your book is A Date with the Beatle, and we'll get on to that. But take us all the way back, because I know you can remember every detail of it. But when did you first hear the Beatles?
Play, look, see.
No, first time you came across them anywhere?
The first time I came across them was in December of 1963. It was on the CBS News. God bless Walter Cronkite. That's all I can say. And I was just there. You know, my dad was a big Cronkite fan. One of his addictions, as I used to say, Dad just was Dad, you know. So anyway, I still can see it. I'm like trying not to see it in my heart's vision, you know. But when I looked at them, I mean, I was from Philadelphia. That's where America had a lot of rock and roll going on because of Dick Clark and Bandstand. He had all the big guys on and all that stuff. And when rock and roll first came out, I was born in 48. So in 1956, see how you asked me a question, you got to edit so much stuff. So anyway, but in 56, when everything was really rocking and rolling, and Elvis was very cool, it was all shook up. Teddy Bear, Jailhouse Rock, and all that stuff was Chuck Berry, Little Richard. The first 45 I ever bought was Slippin' and Slidin', Peepin' and a Hidin', you know.
Yeah, so, Little Richard.
It was, and then I don't know what happened. You know, Chuck Berry got into some trouble. And Elvis went into the army and was never the same again. I'm thinking to myself when I was hearing him after it, I'm like, you sang That's All Right, Mama. And now you're singing the soundtrack to a movie called Clam Bake. What is wrong with this picture? And then it was Philly. So we had the not that they weren't nice guys, but it was Philadelphia boys, Frankie Avalon, Bobby Rydell, and Fabian, right? 3 nice South Philadelphia guys, really. Did nothing for me. I liked Chubby Checker. He was also from Philly. And the reason I liked him was because of the new dance it brought in.
Yeah.
You know, it brought in the twist and all that kind of stuff. But when I saw, now we go back to your original question, when I saw these guys on stage with that, we'll start from the top and work to the bottom. With the hair, first of all, because everybody else was doing those god-awful crew cuts.
Yeah.
You know, with the Beach Boys surfing stuff going on, which I couldn't understand being an East Coast girl at all. But they had different clothes on. then in my ears that went straight to my heart, they had so much fun. They were looking at each other and having a good time, and they're banging their guitars around, and Ringo's in the back having a great time. And I wanted to feel like that. You know, it was something to feel for Elvis when you're 8 years old. But when you're 15 and you see those four guys on a television screen, I thought, I'm in love for the rest of my life.
What an impact.
What an impact. And my father was like calling it jungle music. I said, Dad, jungle music, they're English, my father says to me, right? But that was it for me. So December in 63, all that.
So then you've got like the build of, obviously, with the I Want to Hold Your Hand, heading up into number one.
Everything rolled so fast. And I wasn't surprised that I Want to Hold Your Hand became number one. I was waiting to see everything on the Meet the Beatles. We called it Meet the Beatles, you know, instead of the With the Beatles thing. But I was fully expecting every song there to be on the list. You know, it was just going to be number one, the Beatles, number two, the Beatles, number three. And besides all that, being inundated with the music, being situated where I was in Philly, if there wasn't a Beatles song on the radio, you know, before I got the Meet the Beatles album, but even when, you know, my father would say, now more of that record player, right? So he didn't say anything about the radio. So I moved the radio as close to my head as possible, and I would be turning the channels. But they didn't constantly play Beatle music. But as I said, being situated in Philly as I was, the joy of that, I could listen to three really cool rock and roll stations. One was WIBG. Everybody really listened to that one. And then I could, when the wind was blowing in the right direction, get WBZ in Boston, was also playing Beatles music. So when BZ and WIBG weren't playing anything, there was good old cousin Bruce Morrow. Bruce, the original Bruce, right?
Cousin Brucey.
I loved the man, and it was, I could tune into WABC. So it was just, it constantly filled me. And like I said, when I saw them that first time, and I'm like, I want to feel like that. It just, this is it. This is the Leftovers. This is still it. I'm still feeling like that.
Yeah.
And I thought, I've got to meet these guys. I've got to see these guys. I had a job, thank heaven, at Frankfurt Hospital. So my mother said, I don't care what you do with your money. Just don't ask me for anything else anymore. I'm like, cool, right? So I bought cool clothes. Everything was so much less money then, even though I didn't get paid like people get paid now, but I could buy an album for, you know, $1.49 or something like that, 99 cents, $1.99. It was crazy. But it was, my God, when I just think about what a joy that they brought to me. And we were just too cool for our own good. So I bought there was a place called Bollendorf's. I was just like drifting off looking at the newsstand in my head. It was Bollendorf's newsstand. It was right by a big like Subway L stop. And she always saved me in case all the girls would come in and try and clean her out. But she really liked me. I knew her daughters, you know, and she really liked me. So Mrs. Bollendorf would save any new 16 magazine or Tiger Beat magazine or any teen magazine, anything that had even just if the word Beatle had been an inch by a quarter of an inch, Mrs. Bollendorf would have saved it for me. So I was so inundated. It was a blessing. And thank God, though, I was a good student. Don't go by this. Right.
Well, that's because, you know, normal people back then.
Wherever they are. Where are you?
Whoever they are. Well, the normal people thought, this is great. I'll go and watch the Ed Sullivan Show. But as we know, you're not normal people. So come on, start with the plan. What was your plan to meet George Harrison?
My plan to meet George Harrison. Well, first of all, I will want to start going to the airport. Okay. Yep. About this, I probably had read my 50th Beatle magazine. I already knew what they did in Hamburg. I heard about the jelly babies, which were not like our, you know, jelly beans. There's little bullets you can get thrown at. And I knew about the Reeperbahn, and I learned to speak German. I did. And then oddly enough, years later, I lived in Germany for 8.5 years. So I was equipped, but I just wanted to absorb everything. So I already knew with the few tickets there were that it was going to be Ed Sullivan and mostly his people who had, connections. And then there would be a few lucky girls because it's not a big studio. I've been to the studio. Yeah. So I knew when I called, I just made sure, are you sure? Are you sure? And I thought, that's okay. You're not going to stop me. I can still go to the airport. So about 3 weeks prior, I knew a lot of girls who had just as many pictures in their school locker as I did. So I said, why don't we cut school on Friday the 7th? Why? I said, what? Why do you not read the magazines? Because we could see them land at the airport. How many chances are we going to get that one time, the first time, all 4 Beatles? And maybe we'll be 100 feet away. Maybe we'll be 50 feet away. Who cares? It's Beatle air. They're there. So I had about 24 girls that were like, I'm going. Yeah, I'm going. We didn't do high fives then, but we were giving mental high fives. So I counted on it. Then as time moved on, day after day, Franny would say, I don't think so. I think, what time would we get home? I'd have to, it was one excuse after another. So it dwindled down and dwindled down. And I was not getting disappointed in my quest. I was not giving up. I was a little disappointed in my girlfriends, like some Beatle fan you are. What are you going to do? Well, my mother will find out. Yeah, but after you've done it.
Exactly.
Remember that old song, they can't take that away from me. You know what I mean? Yeah. You will have already done it. So you get grounded for a couple of months. You can tie sheets together, go out the window. Come on, it's no problem, right? So
we'll get a ladder.
So it just dwindled constantly. And then it was just me and my one friend, Shell. And it was not going to happen there either. It just wouldn't. And my friend Patty that I worked with, Pat went to a different school. Shelley and I went to the same school. Patty went to another school in South Philadelphia, but we worked together at the hospital. She was crazy mad for Paul McCartney. I said, here is your chance. No, it didn't happen. So I said, I don't care, I'm going. And it was like, well, Shelley said, no, I'll go. She hemmed and hawed. So anyway, when it came down to it at 7 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, I'm already up and anxious and happy and just, oh my God. And I'm thinking, they're in the airplane already. Let me see, what time is it in London? And I'm counting back, and all that kind of stuff. And she conked out on me and I said, it didn't matter to me. I was going. Going. And I walked down 2 blocks to get on a bus. Then I got on the L. Then after I got on the L, I took another short bus. And then I walked to 13th and Filbert Street. And I got on the bus, Gus, to Port Authority in New York. Then there's another bus. It could have been, there's plenty of ways to get to Kennedy. And I wasn't used to saying Kennedy for a while because it was Idlewild for decades. And it wasn't until President Kennedy died, they changed the name, I think, right around Christmas Eve or something. And then it was Kennedy. So even in the beginning, I always said, we're going to go to Idlewild. And I'm like, no, Kennedy, So I was so happy. I was so thrilled. I got to the airport and I'm thinking, I had no idea. I thought, even now I'm thinking when they say there were 5,000 girls there, I really wonder. It might have been more like 2,500 when I look at crowds now and can see it through different eyes. Yeah. But I thought, all these girls are cutting school. It was Friday and they didn't care either. I love these women, these young girls, right? I love them. So when I knew exactly what time they were supposed to come, every once in a while, somebody had an update for whatever, but the policemen were around. But what I really noticed before the plane came in and the ground was filling up, and you take a look at these pictures, this is so wrong. there were no women out there. There were all men reporters. There were men with, photographers. There were men policemen. And I'm like, is this a crime? Here's, thousands of girls, that are just waiting, including me, just dying to see these guys get off the plane. And these guys are hanging around next to them nonchalant, like they didn't even care. Not fair, but I thought, that's all right. That's okay.
Could you have been trusted going by the plane? Let's be honest.
Well, so at 1:29, moving right along, at 1:29, when I saw that plane, I'm telling you, it is such a visual for me every time I tell this story. How many times have you heard it? I'm always like this. When I'm making a meatloaf, I'm not this excited. I'm happy I'm making meatloaf. I'm happy I'm making nice mashed potatoes and stuff like that. And I'll go, oh, that looks really good. That tastes great. I'm not like, wow, look at that meatloaf. But every time I go back to when this started for me and how it progressed until I actually met George, Mother of God, this is what happens to me. It's just, remember when I looked at the TV and I said, I want to feel like that.
Yeah.
So just like that old thing that I said, when you want something really, really bad, the universe conspires to make it actually happen for you. I'm a believer. Yeah.
That's the wrong band. That's the wrong band.
Oh, the wrong band. I'm sorry, Mickey. Sorry, Mickey. But when I saw that plane come in and I yelled, I'm just like, he heard me, right? But George! Right? So, and then when the doors open and they're on, oh my God, they're there. I mean, it's not on TV, it's live. I couldn't make my eyes big enough. I just like, I was trying to give every Beatle equal eyeball time. It was like when they came out at Shea Stadium, I'm like, I looked at John. Oh, I got to look at Paul. To George. There's Ringo. Oh, there's George. There's Paul. There's George. There's
There's George.
There's George again. So it was kind of like that when I was there, and there was a lot of funny things that happened. There was one girl. She liked George too. And then she said to me, and she was really pretty too. She kind of had that Ron Eddie thing going on, because they were little Puerto Rican girls from New York, beautiful, great eyes, that beehive, love the beehive. So anyway, she said to me, I'll cut this short. I don't know. I never cut anything short. But anyway, she said to me, I told her I love George, and she said, well, you don't have the right look. He likes exotic looking women. More like me. Why don't you like John? John likes blondes. And I'm looking at her. And then, yes, the nerve, the audacity. John, I said, I can't like John. He's a married man. I was 15. What did I know, right?
Exactly.
It didn't matter to John, right? So it shouldn't have mattered to me, right? But anyway, and then there was this guy. I have to tell you this. This is like, you can cut this out, but I can't miss it. There was this guy who was behind me, kind of a little more friendly than he should have been, even with his, he was just like pushing up against me. And so, I turned around and looked at him, and then I just gave him a dirty look. And then, he just kind of like, it appeared to be, I guess, to anybody else that he was trying to look at the Beatles. He was there checking out the girls. It was like all the guys that were there that cut school. Where else could they find a few thousand teenage girls to Zoom on at the airport? They all cut school too. So I screamed after the last time he did it, and I swear you can cut this out. And I said, "This guy behind me is putting his penis up against me." Right? I did. And this little policeman who looked kind of like a younger version of Groucho Marx is all the way that I can explain it. So anyway, he'd already pulled a couple other girls away that were making too much racket, and they had big signs, and he made them move. And I'm looking at it peripherally, and I'm checking all this stuff out, and I'm looking at the Beatles, and I'm just like, I looked at the plane number, here it is. Look, N704. Oh my God, PA. So it was just glorious. So anyway, I guess they figured I was causing some sort of ruckus up there anyway. So they took a lot. There was not a lot, but there was enough girls who were taken into a semi-holding area. I don't know what they would have used it for, on a regular day. It may have been makeshift. There, it seemed like there were a lot of those kind of doors that you could move. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whatever it was. And so anyway, the cops wanted to know who all of us were. And there was a girl from Tenafly, New Jersey, and there was another girl from Brooklyn, and there was, me. And I thought, God, I can't give my right name. What are we doing here? Right. So anyway, I'm just kind of checking it all out. And then I'm looking at the door that was ill-fitted about 10 feet away from me. And so instead of it just having a small amount of clearance, it looked like it was about an inch. I could hear things. I could see flash bulbs going off. And I heard the noise. I knew they were in that door. And then some guy gets shoved down next to me. And who is it? It's my friend who was zooming on me up there and got taken. Yes, he did. And then he said to me, you could have gotten me in a lot of trouble. And I said, what? And then so I said, well, I told him, I said, well, you better, save your willy in your hand jive bullshit stuff, which is what I said to him. I said, and then when they asked him what his name was, this is what was so funny. And I used his real name in the book because I thought, I'm not sparing you anything if you're still around, right? So anyway, the cop asked him, and what's your name? He said, Alan Johnson. And I looked at him and I said, Johnson, how appropriate. As it was I don't know if they use that as a nickname for other things in other countries, but he got it, right? So anyway, all the girls were petrified now. Now, they weren't petrified enough to get into trouble, which I gave them kudos for. But, I can see that light stuff going on. And I thought, I got to get up. So I stood up. So Groucho, who I nicknamed him because of how he looked. So Groucho says to me, sit down. And I said, I can't. I got to move around. I've got cramps. I knew that would embarrass an older man, right? So anyway, right? So he went, right? He just like, I didn't want to hear it, right? So I'm moving closer to the door. I know there's reporters in there. That was where they took them, I guess, after they got some luggage in, got themselves together. And the door wasn't locked. The door, it was just, I wasn't in, but I was almost in. And I saw the Pan American sign. I saw 4 Beatles. What I actually heard, what made me, I'm like, I can stand here and hold my tummy for a little bit, but what am I going to do? And I heard somebody say, don't you think did you get a haircut? And I heard George answer, and he said, I had one yesterday. I don't remember much what the guy said, but I thought, that's it, right? And I go in, and just that quick, I saw them for probably 10 seconds. I'd love to tell you, I was in there for 10, 15 minutes. Nope. When it was so impulsive. So I get in, and then whammo, boom, I get pulled back again. So anyway, they had these things called vouchers that the police had at the time, or the airport did. And if somebody needed help or they needed to go someplace, they would give it to the cab driver. The cab driver would fill it out, and then they would get paid for it. Well, so they wanted to send all the troublemakers back home, right? So my mother's maiden name, or my grandmother's maiden name rather, was Martin. So anyway, when they asked me what my name was, I'm like so fast. I said, Judy. And he said, yes. And I said, Martin. Right? And then I had mentioned to the cop earlier, Groucho, that I was from Philly. So anyway, he said, and where are you from? And I thought, I said, I don't know why I said it, but I said, New Haven. So then the other cops, I thought you said you were from Philly. I said, oh, well, I was from Philly, but we just moved, and I'm just, I thought, I'm falling apart here. This is not I may not get a voucher. They just might take me to Brooklyn and lock me away. I don't know what they're going to do. So anyhow, I got my voucher. They wanted to get rid of me. The cop said, Sergeant said, take her to her front door. They were sending the other girls, down to Port Authority or on the, get them to the L so they could get back and all that. But the cop wanted them to take me right to my home. I thought, you're willing to get rid of me for probably $300 in cab fare, right? So anyway, I get into the cab, and the cab driver naturally says, where to? What is your address? And I said, and I thought again, and I thought, no, don't go straight on me, Jude. Don't do it. Just go for it, girl. So I said, I want you, and I'm seeing them because I heard, the girl said, we just heard that they were going to be up on the 12th floor of the Plaza Hotel, right? And that was like 15, 20 minutes earlier. So anyway, I said, when he said to me, where to? I said, I want you to take me to the 12th floor of the Plaza Hotel. And I said, I want you to take me, because I'm thinking the Beatles, right? I said,
I'm going to drive the cab all the way to the 12th floor.
Drive me right up to the 12th floor. But that was the only thing that was in my head. So anyway, I told him, again, I know this is going to be so freaking long, but I said to him, you can say you went to New Haven. You can fill it out yourself. Say you went to New Haven. Just drop me off at the Plaza Hotel. I said, so you can do whatever you want, and whatever happens, happens, but I have to be at the Plaza Hotel. So he couldn't take me to the Plaza directly because of all the girls and stuff that were just like, I could hear them screaming from about 3 blocks away. It was cold. I had the window down because I wanted to hear the ruckus as soon as I could hear it. But he had to leave me off it's not even there anymore, at FAO Schwartz across the street. It was this great, big, wonderful children's toy store. It was the movie where they filmed Big.
Oh, yeah.
With Tom Hanks right across from the Plaza Hotel. So for once, I listened to the cops, and they were on horseback, and they, were going like this, waving to us, and the horses are clip-clopping, and I could still hear them, and I'm still happy, and I'm looking at the Plaza Hotel. I'm like, oh my God, this isn't there, we're up there. So anyway, I get, first of all, when I came by, and this is, think about this. If you look at pictures, it verifies it. There are the cops' barriers were probably maybe 12 feet long, 15 feet long. And there's only like that little tripod thing, and the barrier sits on it. And there's a cop in front of the one tripod, and there's another cop in front of the other one. And there's like, there's hundreds of girls there, and I'm thinking,
they're outnumbered.
Come on, are you kidding? Why did you storm the barrier? I'm looking at this thinking, these guys, I can do this.
Yeah.
2 guys, and these girls can't figure, why don't 4 of us break for it? One of us is going to make it.
Exactly.
Nobody did it. So I find my way to a place where I think is safe. I'm looking at all the policemen, and for some reason, this one guy just looked right to me. It just, I thought I can do this. So anyway, but while I was there, I ran into the girl that had who looked like the Ronetti kind of thing going on. So I saw her again. She made it there. I don't know how she made it there. If she left early, somebody drove her, I don't know. But I saw her. And then she said, I said to her, oh no, she said, I'll see you and wave to you from the Sullivan Show on Sunday. I said, oh, really? Well, you know what? I'm getting into the Plaza Hotel today up on the 12th floor. I'll wave to you when I'm in the hotel. She said, you're so full of crap, right? You know,
that's a challenge.
That was all I needed. So anyway, so she said a couple other things to me, and you know, we very New York / Philadelphia-ish, but I was trying to be as nice as possible because I had plans. So I see the policeman and I said to him, officer, I have to get in the hotel. And he just looked at me and he went like this. And I thought, oh, well, I'm going to pretend like I think he didn't hear me. And I said, excuse me, could you come here? And he came over closer to me. We were probably only about 12 feet apart anyway in the first place. So when he came over to me, I whispered as much as you could whisper, that noise going on.
Crowd.
Yeah, so I leaned in and I said, I have to get in the hotel today. My Aunt Mary is up in the hotel. And he said, sweetheart, every girl here has a relative in this hotel today. And I said, but they're lying. He said, and you're not. And you're not, right? And I said, listen to me. And I thought, this is the best I had. And I was like working it for all I could. I said, believe me, I like the Beatles. I do. But I'm an American girl. The Beach Boys have been around, you know, for a year now. I really like them. I have family out in California. My Aunt Mary's from California, right? So anyway, I said, I have to get there. My mom and her didn't get along. I was the liaison that kind of like brought them together. And I just wanted to go up and see her. I said, she didn't know the Beatles were going to be in this hotel today. She might as well have been at the Americana. She could have been at the Warwick, but she happened to want to stay at the Plaza. So now I have to put up with this. I understand it. But if it was the Beach Boys here, I'd be giving you as much trouble as these girls did. You have to help me. He said, what's your name? What's your aunt's name? I couldn't think of a last name to save my soul, right? And then just peripherally, I saw this really tall girl that had this great red hair. I loved it. And it reminded me of Lucille Ball. And in her television show, she always said her maiden name was McGillicuddy, right?
Yeah.
So that fast, peripherally, I see a girl with bright orangey red hair, and I think McGillicuddy. So I said, McGillicuddy. And here I am, like back in the day, it was when the St. Pauli commercials were around. Everybody said, Jude, you look like a St. Pauli girl, right? You know? So anyway, yeah. But, well, let's see. The guy said to me, well, my Ronette friend was waving. Do you know what I mean? From about 20 feet away. So I thought, oh, this is the perfect time. So he said, and the name, what's your name? What's her name? And I said, McGillicuddy. And he's looking at me, the St. Pauli girl. Your last name is McGillicuddy? And I said, why? Don't I look Irish enough to you, officer? And I'm looking down at his tag and it says O'Brien, right? Oh, he had to be Irish, right? And then so anyway, I said, please, I'm just, you know, and I just gave him everything, the look of desperation and all that kind of stuff. I said, listen, you just walk me in there, please, and take me to the reservation desk. And if my aunt isn't registered there, you can just take me out of the hotel and boot me back home. I said, that's how positive I am. I said, please, you've got to help me. You have no idea how much I have to get up there. If that was true, right? So anyway, he says, come on. I don't know how fast I was under that barrier. Boom. Within seconds, I didn't hit my head, nothing. It was like on gossamer wings. Whoop, I was under. And we're walking on our way. And I thought, oh my God. So I had loafers on, right? So as we get into the hotel, right in the main part, where we walked in, right across from it was this I'm certain they still have it. It was this beautiful brass, kind of like what you see in London. You know, those beautiful brass elevators that look like the Queen walks in and out of it every day. It was so beautiful. So I saw it open, and I thought, I've got to get in there. I've got to get in there. So my head's spinning again. So I see him, he goes, come on. I said, I have to tie my shoe. I said, wait a minute, I'm sorry. He went like this because he figured I'm in the hotel. What's going to happen, right? So it's a good thing he didn't look at my feet. He was not a detective. He had to be a regular.
We didn't have laces.
I didn't have any laces. None, right? I didn't even have pennies in my loafers. I had nothing. I had loafers on my feet. So anyway, the elevator door is open. There is a young 20-ish something or other bellboy with a big, beautiful brass rack and all that stuff. And I got in the elevator, and he said, where to, miss? And I said, the 12th floor, please. And my heart was racing like I can't. I thought, I'm there. Oh, mother of God, I'm there, right? So anyway, the third floor, I remember this, the third floor opened, and I thought, oh God, it's not the police or something. But it was one of those things where the door opens and nobody's there.
Yeah.
So that was okay. So then an old gentleman, it was probably 20 years older than this guy now, right? I remember seeing one guy, and I said, I don't know, this one old guy, he had to be 40, but I was 15. What did I know, right? So anyhow, the bellboy was really very nice. And so I acted like the other guy got in, he got out, and then we were alone in the elevator. And I thought, I don't have much time before that door opens. So I said, the bubbles are up on that floor. I wanted to act like I didn't even know they were called the Beatles. Okay. So I said, the bubbles are 12th floor. The bubbles are up on that floor. He said, the Beatles. I said, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. I said, well, that's where I'm going. I said, my Aunt Mary is up there, and my heart is still racing. I said, listen, I would love to see it. I said, would you mind if I just kind of followed you maybe into the room? He said, I can't invite you into the room. I'm sorry. And I said, no, I'm not asking you to invite me into the room. I mean, just, so they just don't think I'm some kid, I said, I just look young for my age. I said, it'll work for me when I'm older, right? So anyway, he smiled, and he said, well, I guess no harm done. So when the 12th floor opens, it, again, men everywhere. I saw Derek Taylor. I have no spit when I think about this. I saw Derek Taylor. I saw Neil Aspinall. I saw Brian Somerville. I saw Brian. I saw a flash of Murray the K. Good night. You know what I mean? Murray the K and his swinging soiree. So anyhow, when I got closer, and there were cops, but I'm like right by. So they probably thought, if the cops saw me, they're going to think this is my luggage. And I held my head up, and I just, whatever my heart was doing and my head was doing, I was not going to let it move me one bit. I was on a mission, and that was it. I could see the door open. I'm thinking in my head, 9 feet away, 8 feet away. Oh, God. And right by the door, when the door opened, I don't know if somebody pulled it from the other way, or maybe it might have been open and I missed it. John Lennon is sitting with his legs over the arms of the chair that was there. Now, John was my second favorite Beatle. I loved them all. It was like, It was like George and then Paul John Ringo, right? I mean, they were like that. They were all one name, Yeah,
yeah.
So I thought, it's okay. It's all right. And I'm thinking, oh my God. Then I see Paul with a really cool transistor radio. It was almost like the one I had. I don't know if somebody gave it to him or whatever it was, but he still had his coat on. I can tell you that. He had nice, long, pretty coat. And it was the one that he walked off the plane on. So I saw him, and I was still okay. I didn't see Ringo at all. I don't know where he was. I would have loved to. But out of the corner of my eye, I see George Harrison, and that was it. That was it. I mean, he was walking this way, and I saw the profile, And I yelled, Judith! Cops, boom, like just here on me, wham, right? So then naturally, my police officer, O'Brien, was looking for me downstairs and he assumed where I was. So he was in a conversation with the police officers that nailed me for good, right? And so, that was, I didn't even feel it. My shoulders hurt me a little later on, but these guys were like, I guess, when I was riding home in the bus, I thought, wow, those guys were tough. Right? I didn't feel it, but love made it not feel bad when it happened. I was just like, they grabbed me and I could still see him like, walking away and just turning a little bit. It was enough for me. It was enough for me. So they were over by a couple other policemen, and I heard the one guy say, yeah, she's blonde. Yeah. Black stadium jacket. About 5'8". Yeah. Okay. So they said, come on, sweetheart, you're going downstairs with us. I said, but I belong up here. Nice try. Right? So I get in the elevator and these two linebacker size cops are right on both sides. They were not, and the elevator's not even that big. Where'd they think I was going? But they're guarding me like I'm Al Capone, right? So I'm there and I said, this isn't fair, just trying to get them to say something to me. And I said, this could get nasty. I'm underage, right? Right. So they're still not talking to me. And anyway, I said, I want to speak to my lawyer. So the one officer finally, I didn't have a lawyer, but So anyway, the one officer says, I said, I want to speak to my lawyers. It was plural. I want to speak to my lawyers. He said, and just what are their names? And I said,
McGillicuddy and McGillicuddy.
At McGillicuddy. And I thought, here we go again. So I said, they're from the offices of Dunn and Overwith. Because I figured this is the end of the road for me. So we might as well go out big, right? So anyway, they opened the doors and that was all they really said. So they said nothing. And then when the doors opened, finally, somebody genuinely had a few words for me. And it was Officer O'Brien. So Officer O'Brien was not happy with me, but he was still a nice guy. That vibe that I had from him. So anyway, I was getting booted out of the hotel and he said, do you have money to get home? And I said, I do. He said, I don't know why I don't believe that. And then so I said, well, I can understand why. Right? But
yeah.
I said, it was love that did it. I was motivated by good things, right? So anyway, the guy says, he gave me $10. $10 was a lot of money then. Minimum wage I was only making $1.10 an hour at the hospital. He gave me $10. He said, I'm going to get you out here. I want you to get into a cab and go home. You promise me you're going to go home? He said, just where is home? And I said, well, he said, never mind. So anyway, I said, but can you do me one favor before I get in the cab? So this guy's like, I'm going to get rid of her. I know he's thinking, I'm going to get rid of her, whatever she wants. You've
used your favors up.
That's it. So anyway, I said, can you just at least escort me to the cab? Like I'm not going to Leavenworth. So anyway, he was very nice. And the doorman at the plaza, I think they still look very handsome in their uniforms, but I don't think they are. Well, I was 15. My memory is a lot. They all look like they worked for Queen Elizabeth, as far as I was concerned. And the doorman was so sweet. And he said, thank you for coming to the plaza, miss, because he didn't know my situation. He just knew I was leaving. He said, come back again soon. So then when we're outside, on the big high steps on the side, I said, did you hear what he said? they were happy to have me here. You see, that's what it was, and come back again soon, right? And he just, right. So when I got outside, there's all these girls around still, right? And I had to take my Beatle buttons off because I was not going to say I like the Beach Boys.
Oh, yeah.
I love George Harrison button, right? So anyway, when I got out there, a couple of girls, because they, here I am putting my buttons on, and they're yelling, "Did she see them?" Right? And then my officer O'Brien said, according to my fellow officers, yes, she did.
Ooh,
They were like cheering me on. I was like, I thought, you could have been up there, one or two of you, but no, you just wanted to stay behind your safe barrier. But I didn't say anything. So anyway, then I yelled out, I saw John. I'm going in the order that I saw them. I saw John, and then I saw Paul, and I saw George, and somebody else in the background, no, Ringo. And I said, hey, 3 out of 4 ain't bad. Right? So anyway, then I see my Ronette. You know what I mean? I see my Ronette in the crowd, and it was like, and I had my gloves on and all that kind of stuff. And she just like was not nice. And she was giving me this, dirty look and everything. And she gave me the finger. Let's leave it at that. Right. But I had my gloves on. So I gave her the mitten. So nobody saw what was going on, but it was reciprocity at its finest. Right.
She knew what you meant.
She knew what I meant. So that was really, and it didn't cost that much. I mean, God, it must be, I don't even know what it is on a bus up to New York these days, but we're talking 60 years later. But I had money left. The cop was good to me. I was in heaven. I was in heaven all the way to Port Authority, all the way back to the bus to go to Philadelphia. I had switched coats with my girlfriend, Patty, because I had this thing. If my mother saw me, this was before, that black stadium jacket was Patty's. I hate to think you're going to edit this shit. I feel so bad for you. But anyway, Patty and I were the same size. I was just a little taller. It didn't matter. It was a 3/4 stadium jacket. But I thought, they're going to, it's the old St. Pauli girl thing. My hair this is my natural hair color. This is like old lady gray. I'm happy with it, but I'm calling it silver.
Oh, yeah. Highlighted beautifully.
Thank you. So this is what Mother Nature gave me all, and that's it. So anyway, it was just so amazing. I got Patty's coat, it's a 3/4 length, and because my thing was, if my mother would see me, if the photographers, which I knew somebody would be taking footage, I could so easily be spotted. I was a little taller than most girls that were there, and I had longer blonde hair. I had a beige coat on that had one of those raccoon collars, back in the day. It was hot stuff.
Yeah.
But so I switched with Patty. So I figured I could say, I only have one if they had seen, but they did, my mom and dad, when they were watching the news. But if they had seen anything, I could say, I don't have a black coat. I only have one winter coat. And then I met Patty on the way home at the hospital. Do you know what I mean? So I was home at the same time when I would have been home, because I left. That was my routine. I left school. Last was 3:45 class. I went down to Frankfurt Hospital. I worked there. We got done about 7:00. We stand around and bullshit and talk and Beatles and whatever and all that stuff. And then I'd be home around 7:30 every night. So it was no different that night. I had my coat back on. Patty said, you got to tell me all about it. I said, girl, I'll tell you, right? So and when I came in, my dad asked me as usual, how was your day, dear? Right? And I said, Dad, it was really interesting. And my mom came in the room. I said, guess what? I cut school today, and let's see, how did my day go? Cut school today, took the bus, and then got the L, took another bus. Then I walked to 13th and Filbert. I went to Port Authority, and I went to see the Beatles. And then the cops sort of arrested me, but not really. And my father's looking at me over his glasses. He said, "You can stop now." I said, "No, let me tell you the rest." So then, and I told him I went all the way through the Plaza Hotel, right? And then so he said, "What an imagination." He said, "Well, I'm glad you had a great day," right? Now, and my first thought in my head was, parents are clueless. I told them
exactly
everything I did. So even if it came back to haunt me, I would have said, which is
I told you.
I told you. You were sitting there, Mom's standing there. It was like, "I'm glad you had a nice day." So there we go. So that is my February 7th. And I'm sure, there's other little kind of things that always come back to me when I read my diaries. I always remember, but I wrote what I wrote.
We have to mention that you have written this down in the book, which is behind me, A Date with the Beatle.
I have. Well,
this is your plug for the book. Go on.
You know what? I am a better storyteller when it comes to writing about other people, dogs and animals and things like this. So I suppose a Beatle may fall into that category, if not only in name. But the book that is behind you, A Date with a Beatle, is exactly the way it turned out in the weirdest kind of way possible. It wasn't a conventional date. It was a joke between me and the guys at work when we used to leave work looking really nice and teenage dress and all that stuff. And the guys would say, "Got a date with a Beatle, Jude? Oh, look at you looking good tonight. You got a date with a Beatle?" That's why the book became A Date with a Beatle. And little did I know when they were saying that to me, that some magic would arise. There is a hard copy of A Date with a Beatle. There's the original. I have a few original blue and black ones left.
I've got one.
I'll give you one. I'll give you one.
I've got one, yeah.
Okay, the original ones. And I found when I moved here, I have an apartment on my own now. So when I moved here, I found another box, and I had like 40 other copies. So I'm going to take them. I'm going to give some to. Oh, here I am talking again. Hold it. I'm sorry. Well, you can edit this out. Hi, folks. I apologize to David Bedford first for having to edit this 50 times before you can get this straight from me. That book behind the lovely Mr. Bedford, A Date with a Beatle, thank you, David, there he goes, was written by me, taken from my diaries and my wonderful memory. I can't remember what I had for breakfast, but long-term memory gets better the older you get. Be happy to be aging, okay? I'm just telling you. It is also in the famous Beehive cover. Here's the original Beehive that the lovely Eric Cash did that went on the book cover. And my friend and editor, whose name really is Frank Sinatra, made a legacy edition and put other little pictures and thingies within the book just to kind of fill it out because it's the 60th anniversary of Beatlemania. And I'm still 16 years old. How does that happen? So I wish you happiness, joy, feel the madness, feel the joy, feel all the love. Just do it. Don't question yourself. Worry about it afterwards. Peace and love. And Beatles.
And if in doubt, if you see a ladder, climb it.
If you see a ladder, climb it. Exactly.